Hello, and welcome to Animals and Shit. Today we'll be observing one of the most fascinating and well-documented species in the animal kingdom, the wild video game journalist. Wow, just look at them, having their stupid opinions.
Sonic was never good.
Sex with a cat.
Nani?
That would be really nice.
Video game.
Video game.
Video game.
Video games.
Video games.
Video game.
Video game.
Video game journalism is a profession, and a very respected one at that.
Fuck you!
IGN, GameSpot, Kotaku, Polygon. These are the outlets that are working tirelessly to make sure that our small little brains think exactly how they should. Hundreds of writers and editors sacrificing their own blood, sweat and tears to prevent our dear wallets from being exposed to malarkey.
What the fuck?
What they're doing is quite noble actually, and all of them should be seen as the heroes of the industry. So, why does everybody hate them? Now, this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, but most gamers nowadays aren't really that fond when it comes to gaming outlets and the people that are working for them. Of course, a certain amount of hate is always to be expected when it comes to popular publications like these, but the majority of the criticism here is not without reason. Allegations of sexual harassment, toxic workplace environments, severe underpayment of staff, you name it. If there's a shitty corporation bingo card, then these companies have already completed it. But it's not the main reason they hate it. Those things are to be expected. The main reason for people's dislike of video game journalism stems from the fact that it's simply filled with sensational tabloid nonsense written by people whose experience with video games includes standing next to them in a Target aisle. Let's take IGN for example, shall we?
See that sucker over there?
I mean, how am I supposed to take any of this seriously when the person reviewing a game isn't even capable of playing it in the first place?
There's one thing you should know about Sonic Unleashed before spending your hard-earned money on it. It's a big piece of garbage. Big piece of garbage.
I get that these reviews are made by different people with different preferences and whatever, but from a company like IGN, you would at least expect some consistency and a well thought out scoring system when it comes to reviewing. But there's none of that. 9.2 for Assassin's Creed Odyssey. For what?
It is a little something for everyone.
Does it make any sense to you that Doom 2016 got a 7.1 while Halo 4 got a 9.8?
You what?
Alien Isolation, one of the best horror games of the last decade, got a 5.9. Forget this, not being scripted enough.
Fright dissolved into frustration as I got killed from behind for the umpteenth time, even as I was crouched motionless and out of sight in an air duct.
Dude, you literally have your fucking scanner out! Ryan, what the fuck?
Like, I'm
And bullshit reviews like these are not just an IGN problem either. In fact, I'd say that when it comes to reviews, the other ones are even worse. Polygon in particular was one of the worst offenders before they stopped scoring games altogether. So, what's the problem here? Well, first of all, I don't think that these outlets should be publishing reviews made by a single person, especially when it comes to big releases, because whether you admit it or not, everyone has preferences, and game critics are no different. You might think that you know what's good from an objective viewpoint, but even your most pretentious art judge is going to be swayed by subjectivity. A Call of Duty guy reviewing Doom isn't going to give it a high score because it isn't Call of Duty. A Persona fan reviewing Shin Megami Tensei is going to criticize it because it isn't Persona. That's just the way it is. You know, it would be nice if IGN or GameSpot had multiple people reviewing games. That would certainly bring a lot more consistency into this, but that's never going to happen. Because
Money!
Not because they don't have any, they certainly do. It's just that they don't want to. And speaking of money, this is probably the biggest problem when it comes to video game journalism in general. The pay is atrocious. $20 for an article as a freelancer? Fuck me. No wonder these websites are filled with clickbaiting nonsense. Quality means nothing to these outlets. Only quantitative bullshit is what matters here, because luring in as many people as possible with sensational headlines is what gets the money flowing. It's simply business. just like how most review scores for bigger titles are simply business. For years now, there have been dozens of people pushing conspiracies and allegations of game publishers bribing reviewers for good scores. And you know, that might be ridiculous, but I mean, how can you not when you see these review scores? Look at COD for example. 8.5 for Black Ops 4, 9.2 for Black Ops 3, 8 out of 10 for Infinite Warfare, 9.1 for Advanced Warfare, 9 out of 10 for World War II, 8.8 for Ghosts. Hello? And it's the same for a lot of other franchises. 10 out of 10 for Last of Us 2, 10 out of 10 for Deathloop, 10 out of 10 for Rainbow Six Siege, 8.8 for Battlefront 2, 9 out of 10 for Assassin's Creed Origins. It goes on and on and on. So many ridiculously high reviews when none of these games deserve it. So, what is going on here? Are these people getting paid to write these reviews? Well, probably not. However, this doesn't mean that something like this hasn't happened before. I just don't think that this is the case nowadays. Instead, I think that these reviews are being influenced in other ways. Because even without money, game critics can have their hands tied behind their backs. Especially when it comes to huge titles, giving a low score can entail various consequences. You might not get review copies anymore and get blacklisted from certain events. You might lose advertisement deals for your company, which might get you fired from your job. Or create a bad relationship between your publisher and your company, which also might get you fired from your job. Or hell, you might even straight up get sued by the publisher themselves. And no, I am not exaggerating here. All of these things have already happened. To give you an example, in 2007, a certain Eidos Interactive, which will later turn into something called Square Enix, launched a massive advertisement campaign for the upcoming video game Kane and Lynch. A campaign which also included GameSpot. Leading up to the game's release, the entire GameSpot website was plastered with Kane and Lynch ads, so much so to the point that you might have even gotten the impression that they developed it themselves. And so, believe me when I tell you, that was quite a shock when GameSpot's very own Jeff Gersman gave the game a 6 out of 10 upon release. His review was actually very honest and fair, however, this honesty would also lead to GameSpot firing him on the spot. Now to make it clear, this was not an isolated incident. What happened here is one of the biggest scandals in the history of gaming journalism. However, things like this have happened before, and are still happening today. It's just in a way you might not recognize as easily. So, the next time someone tells you that gaming journalists can just write whatever they want and that these reviews are 100% honest, just know that it's utter bull.